Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with an assembly video for one of our die sets. This is die number 1160, the flower pivot panels, and you can check out all of our die designs at KarenBurniston.com. The flower pivot panels is actually the sixth in a series of pivot panel die sets that we offer. They all assemble exactly the same, so if you know how to assemble one, you know how to assemble all. So let's start first with just standard card assembly. You always choose your card size with our dies, but for a pivot panels die set, you need at least 4.5 inches on the width. So I decided to do a 4.5 inch square card. I started with a piece of cardstock 9 inches by 4.5 inches and scored it in the middle for folding. And then I added paper panels that were slightly smaller, but made a mistake in the cutting of one of them. It was a little short. So I just took a patch of the same paper and extended it, and then I'll just cover the seam with ribbon. This pattern paper that I chose is actually really thick, so it's no problem to cut the pop-up out of it. You can use any die cutting machine that can accommodate a wafer-thin die, and today I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6. The pivot panels is just a single piece, and the die has done the cutting and the scoring. The first step of training a pivot panels is to work the center fold in both directions. So I pinch it closed one way and then the other way. So you can see out here on an end that the final flower, you can kind of fold that to the back, and then that really isolates the two tabs that also fold to the back. So basically just where those rounded corners come around, there's 3 places to fold, then out on the end of the final flower. Same thing on the other end, fold the flower part to the back. That will isolate the 2 tabs that also need to be folded to the back, and then the final fold is out at the end of the flower. Then I return everything back out to flat and make sure that I have it right side up. So the single little bump is the stem, so those go at the bottom, and then the more rounded ones are at the top. The nice thing about pivot panels dies is that you install them perfectly flat in the card, just making sure that the center fold lines up with the center fold of the card. And that can go anywhere along the fold, so I can choose, like I'm going to do in this case, to maybe go a little closer to the top instead of just right in the center. And then I just make sure that the fold is right in the fold. I recommend a strong glue for attaching the tabs of a pivot panels. I like my Linecone Neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle, and we do sell both of those items on our website. So the glue goes on all 3 tabs, and then just making sure that the fold stays in the fold at the center. Then I want to kick each of those tabs under and attach them to the card. So when doing the ones that are the inside ones here, just make sure as you kick it under that you go directly to the card and that it's not pinning down that 5th flower. And then the one out on the end also gets kicked under and glued to the card. So what I'm talking about with that 5th flower is right here, it has to be able to lift up. And so just make sure that you haven't accidentally pinned it down in the process of getting your tabs attached. Now I turn the card around so that I can do the exact same thing on the other side. I add my glue to all 3 tabs, and then I just kick them under to attach them to the card. Once the glue sets up, it's time to train the card to fold correctly, making sure I didn't pin that flower down. In the center, I want to go mountain, valley, mountain. And then I just start to close the card and see what happens. If this mountain right here is actually collapsed in as a valley, I need to make sure that it's coming up as a mountain between those final 2 flowers. Same on the other side. So if between the final 2 flowers it's coming up like a mountain, and I see mountain here, mountain, 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 so and then a valley in the middle, then it's ready to close the card. And it will do the rest of the training in that process. And you can see 4.5 inches is, I mean, exactly the width of that pop-up in the closed position. I like designing user-friendly die sets, so you actually get 3 identical stem pieces that can each cut through 2 layers of paper at once, so that in one pass through your machine, you'll be able to get all 6 of the stems for the flowers. Okay, so after cutting 6 stems, then it's just a matter of gluing one to each of the panels. The way this is designed is that you get that perfect shadow around each stem. So just when you glue that on, make sure that it looks like there's an even amount around the bottom edges. And then just repeat until you have all 6 of the stems on. For making flowers, I just grab a bunch of scraps that are in the same colors as my pattern paper and then run all 5 of the floral dies through in each color. And then I can just go through and start layering and creating flowers with those. The daisy looking flower looks great if you leave it on its own or if you layer another one on top and then just offset the petals. Every one of the flowers in this set is 6 petaled. So that makes it really easy to layer them, and you can layer them where the petals line up or you can layer them where the petals are offset. There's also a die in the set to cut 6 little circle flower centers at the same time. So I like to go through and just layer up the flowers and make a whole bunch of them. I only need 6 for the pop-up, but then that will leave me a few extra to use on the front of the card. With a 6-petaled flower, you can orient it with 2 petals at the top or a single petal centered at the top. And the way the pop-up is designed is that they alternate. So all I do is just look at the upper shape of the pop-up and see if it's for 2 petals or a single petal, and then they just alternate down the row. This makes for easy assembly because any flower can go in any spot. However, if you were to decorate the flowers all the same, they would still look a little different because you're rotating them between the positions. Now, since I had to patch my pattern paper on the right side because I didn't cut it correctly in the beginning, I am going to cover up that seam with a ribbon wrapped around the card, under the pop-up, tie it in a bow, and then just trim the ends. So I like to just get creative with oopsies like that. Maybe washi tape would be another option if you didn't want the bulk of ribbon. So even though 4.5 inches technically covers the pivot panel, because I have such a difference, a contrast in color, I decided to add a little width to the card. And I'm going to do that with our Border Blends party set. So I'm taping 2 of the dies together because the cool thing about these border blends is that the space in between 2 dies creates a new border. So in this case, that's how I can get a scalloped border, which is perfect to just extend the edge of my card a little bit. And then I just need to cut the same border for the back of the card. And now I have that decorative edged card that's just a little bit wider than 4.5 inches. Then I'll use one of the other border dies in that same set to attach to the top of the pop-up. Then I'll cut little pieces to extend it so that it can actually go all the way across the interior of the card. There is a cute little script hello out of our waterfall card die set, and it fit the area above the flowers perfectly. The flowers can be used independently, of course, and it's also kind of a neat look to stack up some of the stems. So the card front is just a simple lead-in using leftover materials. I used word set 4 to make the Just a Note greeting. As for signing the card, I will often add another shape, but I didn't need to in this case because the pattern paper was so light. I thought you'd enjoy this little behind-the-scenes moment where I was adding glitter pen to the centers and my daughter delivered me a surprise soda but didn't know I was filming. Okay, so here is the finished card assembly. So this card ended up being 4 3/4 by 4.5, and I'll use an A7 envelope. The card that's shown on the packaging is 5 by 4.5. They will also fit in a slimline or a mini slimline. This is a great card by Karen Aiken. In addition to adding the pivot panels to cards, you can also combine them with our previously released twist panel pop-up die set. So if you have both dies, you can make a card like this. The pivot panels basically replace the center 2 panels of the twist panel die set. So let's show how to do that. And with the twist panel, you can choose your card size again. So this one is a top fold A2 size card. So for this card, I added a strip of grass across the pattern paper before die cutting, and I did that using our Long Nature Edges die set. So it's definitely easier just to add your grass piece to your pattern paper before die cutting, and then it'll just die cut right through both layers. So that's what I'm going to do here with a decorator rectangle to fit on the panels that I cut using the twist panel die set. Okay, so my outer panels are going to attach to the flower pivot panels using the 2 little protruding tabs. And you can either just lay it over the top, or you can turn it like a book and kind of place the pages, face to face, then add adhesive to those little tabs and fold them over and onto the back of the panel. Okay, and then I go to the other end and do the same thing. So I'll find the folds first. I just find those in the usual manner by just folding them all to the back. So the 3 at the edge of the panel and then the 1 at the edge of the flower. And then I'm going to fold the flower inward so it's out of the way so that I can add my final panel. And again, I'm going to do that face to face. So panel over panel, Then I add the adhesive to the two little tabs, fold them over and onto the back of the panel. Okay, so here's my set of 4 panels. Now I want to work all the folds to get the flower pivot panels working. Just like if I was installing inside a card, I work the center fold in both directions. Keeping everything nice and flat, I add adhesive to the tab that's out on the end of the row of flowers, tuck it under, and push it to the panel set. Do the same thing on the other end. Then adhesive on the tab. In this case, my grass is kind of coming up, so I'm just going to snip it out of the way. I don't need it. That tab is going to fold under and you're not going to see it. So adhesive on the tab, fold it under, keep everything flat, attach it to the panel. In the center, I want to see mountains top and bottom, valley between the flowers. I want to see a mountain between the final 2 flowers on both sides. And once I get it started, then I can carefully close the panel set. So the difference is that sort of double pop-up that you get. So normally you would just have 4 flat panels on a twist panel, but by adding the pivot panels for the center 2 panels, then you get the double pop-up. From here, attaching it to the card is exactly like you would do for any twist panel card. And there is a full assembly video on that die set, the twist panel, so you can watch that in much greater detail by watching the assembly video for the twist panel pop-up. After attaching the outer panels to the arms, then I like to get my hands close to the center fold and really go slowly that first time to teach it that proper twist. Okay, and from here it's just a matter of decorating. The long nature edges includes a stitched hill, so I use that to make the swoopy pink part, and then just flowers and pieces from the twist panel for the front. And then inside our Happy Mother's Day greeting, more swoopy hills, and then just decorated with all of those flowers. My finished card is just a top fold A2, so just requires an A2 sized envelope. Flowers are sort of the perfect generic card embellishment, right? Because that could be thank you or birthday or congratulations. It could be sympathy. It could just be hello or happy spring. Another great bit of interchangeability with our pivot panels die sets is that they fit in either of our tag books. So in that case, you would swap out the mechanism that comes in the tag book with a pivot panels instead. And the pop-up shadow portion of the flowers doesn't really look like flowers until you add them to it. So that means you can use it very generically and just put anything on it. So in this case, our tulle charms to make a Father's Day card. You can also pull the flowers out of this set and use them on all your other sets as well. So here is a waterfall card using the flowers out of the flower pivot panels. So new die sets come out and they're always backwards compatible with the dies that came before, so that you're always sort of refreshing and getting some new looks for your collection as you build it. I love to end assembly videos with some cards made by our very talented design team. Lois Bach made this beautiful Mother's Day card, and I love how she just pulled the colors for her flowers right out of the pattern paper she had chosen. Frances Byrne has made a slimline card with a shortened front panel to hold the flower pivot panels. Sandy Diller combined the twist panel with the flower pivot panels, and notice how she did the stem, so every other one is turned. Fran Sabat combining the flower pivot panels with the tag book, and I just love these colors. And then another beautiful color scheme, this card by Kelly Booth using the circle tag book with the flower pivot panels. The Flower Pivot Panels die set is available now at a lot of your favorite local and online retailers, as well as on our website, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can find out information about purchasing these dies, as well as links to all my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.